Guys, I'm not gay. I swear to God I'm not. I don't know where these allegations came from that I'm gay and went to gay high school, but quit it. There's literally nothing backing up these false claims. What you got there? I'm not gay! In today's Total War Warhammer 3 video, we will finally be putting the allegations to rest. Much like a Texas state politician, I've decided that the best way to prove I'm not gay is to force a large group of women into a relationship with me without their consent. There are dozens of characters in this game that could probably achieve this goal, but only one truly stands out. Kari, a large sex demon of Slaanesh, capable of seducing others with his charms.
You will have an undeniable attraction to me.
Today we will be using our claws, tactics, and exuberant amounts of whips to seduce and subjugate every female legendary lord in the game, except these four. Why? Gross. Will we succeed in surrounding ourselves with beautiful women before the gay thoughts finally catch up? Only one way to find out. Our journey begins in the ripe and fertile fields of Femboy Island. It's nothing but us and a sea of unspoiled and untouched elvish twinks as far as the eye can see. Which, as a straight man, disgusts me. Boo! Gross. As luck would have it, one of our neighboring factions is ruled by Alarielle the Radiant, Queen of the Elves, and the first woman on our list. With our initial goal set, we started out, much like every Warhammer campaign, conquering our first province. The Kari's faction has a variety of powerful mechanics that really set them apart from the other factions in the game, but two mechanics really stand out. First of all, the units in the Kari's faction possess terrible auto-resolve weight. Therefore, for the first 60 turns of the game, every single battle, no matter how insignificant, has to be manually fought, otherwise half of the army dies. Mechanic 2 is awful early game replenishment. Yeah, no, this is gonna be so much fun. However, if played properly, Kari's faction is quite possibly the strongest faction in the game. By fighting every battle, we're able to keep our casualties extremely low and completely conquer our first province by turn 2. Immediately after securing the province, I sprinted Kari to the neighboring faction to the east, declared war, and began sieging their capital. The AI knew that they had a numbers advantage and confidently sallied forth to meet me in the field. Unfortunately for them, I had just snorted 20 grams of cocaine and was microing out of my goddamn mind. A predicted valiant defeat was turned into a victory with only 150 casualties. By turn 7, we had 2 full provinces under our belt, at which point Alarielle declared war on us, and it was time to force the first of many women into our loving embrace. Alarielle, at this point, was pretty strong, and to fight her we would probably need more armies, but we were quite strapped for cash. Never fear, balanced game design is here. See, the primary mechanic in Kari's faction revolves around this funny little button right here. Every few turns, we can press this button and instantly spawn a second army to support us. This army costs us no upkeep, and while it slowly burns to death outside our borders, it is still an incredibly useful ability. Needless to say, with balanced game design at our back, our first battle with Alarielle did not work out in her favor. A few short turns later, we had pushed Alarielle back to her capital, and with one final siege battle, put a gun to her head and successfully coerced her to fall in love with me. First woman acquired. With Alarielle's Stockholm Syndrome setting in, my eyes turned to the rest of Ulthuan. It seems that her husband, Tyrion, was not too happy about being forced into a cuckold relationship, and has rallied all of Ulthuan against me. Tyrion aggressively marched towards me, and I met him on the field of battle. His army was strong, but there's a reason why I'm the bull in this relationship. After heavy losses, we emerged victorious, wiping 2 of Tyrion's armies, and then took a few turns to upgrade Kari's army, as well as build a second army. Better cavalry, heavy infantry, and exalted demonic units joined our ranks, and with this new fighting force, we launched our counterattack. We sent Kari down the western coast of Ulthuan, pillaging and conquering cities, while our second army began conquering the inner ring. As our second army closed in on Lothern, capital city of the High Elves, we came face to face with the most disgusting creature imaginable. Ugh, it looks painful for you to even be alive. Don't worry, I can help with that. Slowly but surely, we conquered Ulthuan, fighting brutal battle after brutal battle, before finally, we succeeded in capturing the city of Lothar. Soon after this, we oversaw divorce proceedings between Tyrion and Ilariel by crushing Tyrion's skull with a meat tenderizer. With Tyrion dealt with, there was just one high elf holdout remaining, Finster. Finster marched on me with 2 armies, and the unthinkable happened. I was actually able to auto-resolve without losing every unit in my army. That's right, gentlemen, it's past turn 60. We've scaled. A few turns later, we crushed the final high elf holdout, and Ulthuan, either through direct ownership or vassalization, was now firmly under my control. It only took 66 turns, 16 manually fought battles, and 6 hours of my life, but we'd done it. With this fortress island serving as my base of operations, surely now I could focus on securing the remaining women uninterrupted.
What is foreshadowing?
With the twinks pacified, it was time to acquire the next woman on my list. Mommy, fuck, I mean, mommy, fuck, I mean, mommy, fuck, I mean. Before we took her on though, I decided to take a minute for myself. And what better way to cut loose and have a little fun than by kicking the absolute living shit out of an old lady. With the old bag boxed up and shipped off to the funeral home, I turned around and declared war on mommy, fuck, I mean, mommy, fuck, I mean. I won a few sweeping victories against Morathi, rapidly pushing her back to her capital. Due to this success, I figured I was strong enough to be in a 2-front war and declared war on Fat Amy from Pitch Perfect to the north. Unbeknownst to me, there were stirrings in the west. The undead pharaoh had heard tale of my epic quest to put the gay thoughts to rest, and since him and his skeletal friends love boning, he declared war on me to try and stop my escapades. I now found myself in a 3-front war. Nakari quickly crushed the remainder of Morathi's forces, and after a bit of erotic roleplay, succeeded in bringing Mommy Morathi into the fold. Woman 2 acquired. With Nakari now freed up, I was able to focus all of my attention on dealing with the 2 factions to my north. This surprise war with the Frogman was slightly concerning, as he was strength rating 2, and most of my armies were currently tied up in wars to the north. Needless to say, I was feeling the pressure, and began scrambling to form a plan on how I could deal with this. Never fear, balanced game design is here. Oh yeah, like an obese child in Baskin-Robbins, I became an unstoppable force. With an unhealthy mass of disciple armies at my back, I punched into the Frogman, quickly dismantling his defenses and conquered his capital. Meanwhile, in the north, I took several Tomb King cities, and apparently I resurrected the Sisters of Twilight. I totally forgot about them. Third woman acquired, I guess. I quickly finished off the pharaoh and raced my armies over to deal with Fat Amy. Unfortunately for her, years of singing a cappella does not adequately prepare oneself for getting stabbed in your vital organs. With the north stabilized, I was able to dedicate my full attention to the war with the Frogman, and after 40 grueling turns, finally managed to put the dinosaurs back in their cages. With the members of the tripartite pack defeated, I pulled all of my primary armies back to Ulthuan to reorganize and establish a plan to gather the remaining women in one fell swoop. By this time, I had 7 armies. Each army was composed of an entire legion of chosen Slaaneshi warriors, several exalted demonettes, heavy cavalry, a keeper of secrets, several fiends of Slaanesh, which weirdly I find kind of attractive. And this thing. Don't fuck with this thing. 3 armies, captained by Nakari, would head east to gather the 2 French women and the Queen of Russia. 2 armies, captained by Rathmus, would head around the world to subjugate Mao Ying in China. And 2 armies, captained by Uriel, would head north to subjugate Valkia and work towards gathering the hands-down hottest woman on this list, Sigvald the Magnificent. I don't know if it's her curves, her jawline, or her well-crafted breasts, but this woman is leagues above the rest. Ladies, this is what attracts a man. With the plan established, Nakari and his forces crossed into France, finding nothing more than a nuclear wasteland. Hiding beneath the rubble was the culprit, Ikit Claw. Under normal circumstances, I would have applauded this man and his dedication to eradicating the French. But these were not normal circumstances. I declared war and swiftly kicked Ikit out of Carcassonne, resurrecting the Fey Enchantress and crossing the fourth woman off our list. Meanwhile, in the north, Uriel caught Valkia in her final city and vassalized her without much resistance. Originally, I didn't plan to include Valkia in this video, but she seems the type of woman that would step on me and well, you get it. Fifth woman acquired. Back in the east, Nakari was continuing his quest to resurrect the French peoples, an act that was making me physically ill, but I'd rather be called a French sympathizer than a homosexual. So I powered through. As Nakari made landfall in the Southlands, I remembered a critical detail I'd kind of forgotten about. Maybe 30 turns ago, I'd gotten a message about the Tomb King endgame crisis spawning, and while I disregarded it at the time, I guess it did end up affecting me after all. Not wishing to stick around, I hastily conquered a few cities and resurrected the second Frenchwoman, Lady Lioness? Fuck, I don't know. Surrounded by Tomb Kings, I crossed her name off my list and wished her luck as Nakari turned tail and sailed north into the heart of Europe. As my mind began descending into madness due to the absolute slog that was this playthrough, Raphnis made landfall in China, only to find nothing but burned fields and abandoned buildings. Carefully, they crept across the wasteland, making their way to the Chinese capital, Beijing. Shh! Do you hear that? It sounds like it's coming from the rubble. Well. Imagine my surprise finding you here, Mao Zedong. We killed Mao and succeeded in restoring the Chinese empress to the throne. Woman 7 acquired. Back in Europe, Nakari was making the agonizingly slow push northward through vampire territory while in camp stance. My armies moved much like a herd of white women in a low-income neighborhood, slowly and huddled together as to not draw any attention. Eventually, we made it to Russia and surveyed our surroundings. I declared war, and in just 4 turns, had managed to win the Russian monarch over to my side. Woman 8 acquired. At this point, I was just so tired. But as soon as I realized that the last woman remaining was Sigvald, my fighting spirit returned. With renewed vigor, I sprinted Nakari north. Nakari blitzed through Sigvald's lands, rapidly pushing towards her capital. Before we knew it, we were gathered outside the city walls. Everything had led to this moment. This battle would not just be to win Sigvald's heart, but to prove once and for all that I am not a gay man. With a war cry, we charged the city walls. Blades were crossed, bones were crunched, and yet before I knew it, I had won. With a gasp, Sigvald fell into my loving arms, cementing herself as the 9th and final woman on my list. It had taken 200 turns, dozens of manual battles, and completely degraded my mental state. But it was all worth it as I stand before you today and boldly proclaim, I am not gay. Before we bring this journey to a close and I enjoy the fruits of my endeavors, I'd like to give a big shout out to Patreon supporters Jarcamfo, Reds, Doc, Denamite, Black Garden, Lady Corvia, Marcus M, Hobbs, and Luke Strobel. Seriously, it's because of you guys that I'm able to keep making awesome videos like this one. Now, gentlemen, if you'll excuse me, they're waiting for me in there. Sigvald, what a big clit you have.